Hey everyone, this is Jordan with Conquer Trading and Investing, and we're getting ready here for our live stream of the New York session. A lot still going on since last night. We've seen some really big moves, a lot being priced in, and this morning it continues in about a half hour at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time at the open of the U.S. indices. China will be holding a press conference, and we'll have expect big moves off of that, whether they affirm yesterday's headline news about a possible deal being signed, a deal that no one will ever know the terms of, that will be kept hidden, supposedly at the request of China, but either which way, or if they deny it or change the terms of it, we expect some big moves. Probably you see big yen appreciation. We saw the U.S. consumer half hour ago was falling off. This is not good news for the U.S. economy, but it is just 1 month of data. We have to see and watch for a trend. Let's take a look what's going on right now. Mad Mario, hey, welcome. Glad to see you in here with us. Blair, thanks for the disclaimer. Appreciate that. Let's see. I don't even know where to begin. Everything is kind of bonkers. I think I want to begin with talking about the yen. So again, in a half hour, we find out what is exactly happening as far as China is concerned. In my opinion, the U.S. played a really nice chess move here by controlling the narrative, putting it into China's court. And I think China was just kind of silent for a while to take back a little power, psychological power. I think they're going to go ahead and take the deal. If that's the case, I think we're going to continue for some time, unless the markets blow up going into year end. If you haven't read this article, you have to read it. There's the link. I shared the link with you in the chat. So we should see some further yen weakness. And that's what I'm really going to be focused in and looking on next week. That's definitely the theme that we've been seeing as we come close to some type of agreement. We're also seeing the Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar really leading the way. Let's take a look under the hood and see what we have going on. Let's start off with the euro US dollar, which is having trouble right now holding this resistance line right here. So this is pretty strong resistance above. It's a big level that the euro US dollar needs to, you could see it topped out. If you look horizontally, right where that resistance was right there as well. It's a big level up in here. And so far it's falling. You could see that on the dollar index. So there's no, we're going to start here. There's no trade though yet, right? If you're trading, if you're selling off of this, all right, first let's wait to see what happens in the next half hour as far as what China says. Wait to see how the markets react before you go ahead and take any position, because we're going to see some big movements this morning in just a little bit. So right now, assessing the situation, we're above resistance. If you are looking to possibly get short, you could do that off of this resistance, right? You can see it over here. You see the true trend is way oversold. The entry CCSI is coming back down though a little bit. So be careful chasing price to the downside now, because it's still basing out here. I'm not taking that counter trend trade at this moment. You are off a resistance level though. And let's see what happens in the next half hour and reassess this. Maria, good morning. By the way, the pound has given back some of its enormous gains, a couple of 100 pips against the yen. And then also here you see similar on the pound US dollar. This was such in just 7 minutes, we saw this 450 pip move on the pound yen, and that's to be expected. It seems that the EU is saying that they will give a deal, although they're saying that deal will not come at earliest for 11 months. That puts us at the end of 2020. We'll see. that's going to be, we'll see how that story develops. Right now, what should you be doing with the pound? Well, I don't think anything this morning, right? We're on a Friday. The biggest story right now is what's going to happen at the Chinese press conference. And I think the action where you want to focus after that would be on yen pairs. Give the pound some time here to consolidate and figure out its next move before getting involved. It's still very jumpy, pricing in some really big news. So gold, I want to check in on this morning with you next. And gold is still trading within this channel, which is so far holding up. Okay, this looks like to me to be a bear flag, which normally is a continuation pattern. If you get back above this resistance here, as we were just the day before yesterday, or this was yesterday morning, I'm sorry, we had this resistance up here of this upper channel, which it did held. This was a Trump tweet. This whole move basically, or 3/4 of it, was a simple Trump tweet. And right here, price is just consolidating towards the lows. You are at support, so it's possible to look for a buy. I'm not looking for the buy. I'm looking to see if we break down, and I'm just waiting. A lot of people are interested in buying gold right here. I'm going to wait until we clear up here, right where my cursor is, around 1486. And then you have a resistance right there. So of course, you want to buy off the supports and down here. I'm just standing aside, right? It's not clear to me. I'm looking to the downside. That's it. That's where I'm looking. I'm not looking to take this long off of this support over here. What's going on, everyone? Welcome. Glad you're here. Hey, if anyone has any charts that they would like to share to post, go ahead in the description. You see right there my trading view account, and you could just private message me through there. And as I'm looking at the charts, it would then just alert me into these private chats, and then we could go ahead and look at it. You could use postimages.cc or postimages.org. Or you could use TradingView, even easier. Just click the camera, and then you get the image URL. That's the easiest. Let's keep it going. Before we go any further, I haven't checked in Bitcoin's price in a few days, really. Want to see where it's at, and it's very sideways, huh? All right, nothing to see there. So it's about 25 minutes. I really want to keep my eye on the open today because we do have the Chinese press conference scheduled. That's going to be a market mover one way or another. Look at this. This is beautiful. So, you know what I wanted to spend some time doing this morning is reviewing some of the trades this week. For example, I'm going to go back to the US dollar, Japanese yen in just a moment. But I want to review this because I definitely was standing aside. I remember why I stood aside, and that was because I didn't want to be taking this long over here, which is a trade that probably should have taken because this resistance was right above it, with double resistance right above it. I want to review these because this is the best way to learn, by reviewing all trades, especially those that you didn't take. And on a Friday, I think it's a good time to go ahead and spend some time while the movements are fresh in our minds to look at them. Going back to the US dollar, Japanese yen, though, you see that we had this take profit level, this resistance line up here going back, I guess about a week and a half now. I remember taking profits right over here. Price came back and has made now, it looks like a double top there, hitting that area again, and has since come off. You're seeing some yen movement right now. I wonder if the Chinese press conference has started early or not. Not sure. But that is interesting to see that double top there. And I have to say, while we're looking here at the US dollar, Japanese yen, for all those who are remembering, when we saw this breakout down here of this rising wedge, we didn't take any shorts, and it was a really good decision. And that was because of this strong support down below it, which has held, right? You can see it move it up. That horizontal line right where my mouse is right now is really where the first level of support is. You could see the multiple touches here of resistance, resistance, support. All right, so let's get a second line in there. Mario, I'm not following what you're saying. Um, could you, I'm not really understanding what you're saying. So what I was saying, if someone wants to share a chart, they could just click on that camera button, copy the image URL, right? And then they could send a private chat and over here, and then it'll come up while we're on the thing. If you have something that you're adding that could help, please let me know. That would be really helpful. Gabriel, Nucleus is traded on the Wave Exchange. US dollar, Canadian dollar is still, for me, out of play, very undecided. If I go back and look, zoom out a little bit, what I'm looking at really is just a series of higher lows and lower highs. And I see, as we're getting closer to this pinnacle here, that the moves are becoming less and less. Right now, we're in between it. So I'm just looking for better opportunity, which is found elsewhere. And at this moment, not looking for any trades on US dollar, Canadian dollar. I don't see an edge. I feel like any move, whether you take it to the upside or downside, will be limited. Nick, welcome. Glad that you're in the chat here with us. I hope that you start spending some more time with us when you can. If not, definitely follow the replays. So it's saying it's only available for X amount of time. That looks good. Yeah, I like the Australian dollar, US dollar. Oh, look at this. What happened this morning? Let me see if something came out as far as the China press conference is concerned. Oh, that's pretty big news this morning, right? Always with a tweet. So we're seeing right now the Australian dollar come off. We're seeing that yen strength that I just mentioned over here. So I'm not sure what's developing. Let's take a look together. Okay, so what this headline is saying, is that that Trump is coming out saying now that all that happened is that the tariffs were delayed by the U.S. If that's the case, that's all that China was looking for. That should still be pretty supportive of the markets. This is a guess, meaning that China is not going ahead and making that $50 billion agricultural purchase. So said the commitments aren't being made on the agricultural purchases in exchange for 50-cent rollback. We're going to have to wait for more to develop here and see what happens. So it's really important here for the Australian dollar, US dollar. This right here could be an opportunity to get back in. Wilfred, what I'm looking at here is real, and I'm really interested in the Australian dollar here, is you see this year-long trend line that has been broken right now. And right now, what we're coming back down is testing that breakout. All right, so this is, if this holds this area, this trending slope here, and this green support line we have over here, if that area holds and price reverses off this, and we'll have to watch this during the New York session, even on the lower time frames, I want to be involved in the Australian dollar, US dollar, and not just for a swing trade, right? If things are going to be, if we're at a turning point, it's the hardest point is to get into the turning points. But if you're seeing here, this long trend line being broken, there's the possibility of getting into a nice move here. I want to be involved. I'll enter it as a normal swing trade with our normal risk and reward. But instead of taking profit, I will give it the opportunity to run as long as possible. So we're going to keep coming back to this morning. We need to find out more of what's going on as far as the story. It seems that right now, from the little I understand and know, President Trump is saying that the story yesterday on China is completely wrong. This is a very fluid situation. We'll just need to keep watching. This is also a trade to review. I took a beautiful entry off this trade this week, off of this support, and then exited a little too soon when my take profit should have been up here. Yeah, that's really coming off. This might, again, we're getting closer to this pattern. You can see this triangle pattern that's developing. And we're still within it. So Maria, I'm going to, for me personally, a breakdown and where I would look to short this, and not until then, would not be until this trend line is broken to the downside. Extend that up. If and when that breaks to the downside, then this pattern is a failure. This pattern generally breaks to the upside more than to the downside. But if it breaks to the downside, you'll get a waterfall type move. So that might look like a buying opportunity, but I think first, and I want to look at the Australian dollar, Japanese yen, more so than the US dollar. Along on the Australian dollar versus the Japanese yen, you're collecting the spread, which if it winds up being a position trade, is really important. So you can see it pulling back less than versus the US dollar. I could see support right over here where it is right now, multiple touches. So this is interesting too for me today. And depending on what happens this morning, there seems to be a lot of uncertainty right now about exactly what is happening with the US. China has a press conference scheduled in just 13 minutes. Whether or not they'll be on time, I don't know. But we're going to see a lot more information released this morning and get some clarity. And if this is just a pullback that we're seeing right now, and just kind of on the uncertainty, and then everything is kind of worked out and things start resuming backwards, this will be a gift to get into these Australian dollar pairs this morning. I don't know, Wilford. I'm really want to hear what China has to say. Trump didn't give too much details, did he, in that tweet? The Wall Street Journal story on China deal is completely wrong, especially their statement on tariffs, fake news. They should find a better leaker. But he didn't say what the situation is. So I'm looking to China this morning to hear what they say, and we'll take it from there. Again, the situation just seems to be really fluid right now. And this pullback we're seeing on the Australian dollar, this could be a buying opportunity. Let's see if these supports hold over here. That's the first thing to look at. And if price resumes off them, that's going to be a buying opportunity. If we lose these supports and break down, okay, then we reassess. But right now, I'm looking that this may simply be a possible buying opportunity, and I'm just going to wait and watch how price reacts, how the story develops, and see. This is trading right now at a resistance level. You can see my mouse. Gabriel, yeah. So MIT did a study, and MIT said that actually technical analysis, they did a really big study. You could Google MIT technical analysis study, and their findings differ than yours. They say that it's not only possible that, of course, there's not really a debate around that, as well as I don't know who the owner of the Boston Red Sox is, but that's how he bought the Boston Red Sox. He would obviously disagree with you, as would who was Simmons, the owner of what's the name of the hedge fund? It is the most successful hedge fund of all time, who with a 40% fee yearly has produced over a 60% return yearly in the markets. They only manage $10 million. So, George Soros would obviously disagree with that, as would, almost all of Wall Street. So, Raj, good morning. We have a fluid situation developing here. I'm focused on the Australian dollar, which is coming down and giving a better entry towards this support here. I consider this right now a test of this support, of this breakout, of this year-long breakout over here. And we're going to see what the situation is. We're expected in about 10 minutes, hopefully, to hear something from China and to give us a little more clarity of what is happening, what is going on. And I like if I'm able to take a trade on the Australian dollar, I like the Australian dollar US dollar for a swing trade. And if I could possibly get in on the Japanese yen of a swing trade that develops into a position trade. We'll see. Let me keep looking though. I don't want to get lost in here. I'm avoiding the pound pairs this morning. We're going to wait for a little more clarity on them. I would love to take a look at what happened here with the euro pound. A huge move, and then retraced half of it back towards this level right here, which is resistance. This was the breakdown. Price came up. Most likely, this is going to resume back downwards. This is possibly something to watch. You could see over here. because you have a really nice, well-defined level. This was the breakdown, and then price came up and actually tested it now. And if it resumes back downwards, that looks good for getting short over there because you have a well-defined risk. Always, yeah, okay, Wilfred, that's good to recognize that you were too soon, that you were chasing price. That's really good. That's really what is helpful here with the entry CCI. Do you see how long it was extended above? This is the entry CCI, the blue line up here. And this tells you if price is near term overbought or oversold. So, well, if you got it in 69, well, I mean, you were chasing something that's overbought for an extended time, but you also had about 40 pips to the upside before she turned. Stop, don't be afraid to move that stop loss, right? You see look over here at the top over here, you could see that resistance was being tested. If you look at the mouse and look horizontally to the left, and right around there is when you had to look how price is going to react little by little. I find that Twitter is the best for getting market news. So in a situation like this, where we're not sure what's going on with China, I look to my Twitter. And also the Forex Live RSS feed is pretty good as coming in with news. Again, it's a fluid situation. I think a lot is going to change this morning. We have about 5 minutes to the U.S. indices open and about 5 minutes until the supposedly China press conference. So Ray Dalio, who runs Bridgewater, is the most profitable hedge fund ever. And they trade, I don't know how much they trade, but it's a much larger amount than, I think it's Jay Simmons. His last name's definitely Simmons, and it's escaping me the name of the fund. But his fund has that, again, a 40% fee. They'll only trade 10 billion. Now they're trading most of their own money. And their track record after the fees is over 60% a year. I can't think of the name of George Soros's partner, the one who actually took down the Bank of England. George Soros is credited with it, and George Soros did tell him to actually increase his position size into that. I can't think of his name. He has the best track record on Wall Street. He has a 30% return yearly for 30 years. And is a fantastic guy, really humble guy and trader. I have to think of his name during the session. Jim was the original partner of the Quantum Fund of George Soros, and Jim is I do follow Jim. He seems to be a good guy. He's been really bullish on commodities for a long time when things haven't really been so bullish. And of course, though, he's bullish on China. He's a good guy. I don't know how, I don't know that he still has his pulse on the market so well. So careful here. Again, we have just in a few minutes expected the Chinese press conference to give us clarity on the trade deal. I do not know why that President Trump is not. I mean, okay, that's great to let us know that we got some fake news being reported, but tell us what the story is. Checking my Twitter. Yeah, let's take a look at gold this morning. I think gold is trading within this. You can see right here in this channel, which looks to me like to be I'm calling it a bear flag. And it's just, this was the tweet yesterday from Trump. Price is still consolidating right down around here. Anyone buying off of support, as some people last night were doing during our live stream during the British elections, and that's what that's good. Buying off support is definitely what I do. I'm waiting and looking for a breakdown out of that pattern, but support is holding right now, and that's the place to be. Anyone who's buying gold down here is doing the right thing. And gold is kind of a little subdued. You think gold would be? I mean, I know the Fed is not supposedly on hold right now, but with the massive amount of money being injected, with the Fed right now buying 90% of all U.S. Treasuries issued, which is monetizing the debt of the USA, that gold would be a little more reactive, and you'd see a much bigger bid in gold. It's not there right now. Things above here will get interesting again. And this is moving up a little right now because of this trend line up here to the upside. So above 1490, 5, things start getting really bullish right now. So this is like a new area. It was down here, but we have this sloping trend line in play, and it held over here. So I expect it could hold again over here, and this becomes a really big area now, right around 1495. So Wilford, this is definitely my own experience that unless it's a fast moving market, and we don't get many of those. Yesterday was pretty fast. It was good, wasn't like during the crisis, but it was good. And, then you could trade on the 4-hour, but the 8-hour time frame provides a much greater advantage. And that's because it's going to filter out a lot of false signals that the 4-hour provides. The 4-hour gives a lot of false signals. And although you feel like maybe you're getting a better entry because you're getting in earlier, well, the fact is that's not the case. You wind up actually getting many more false signals because the market fluctuates. The market chops all the time. So the 8-hour cuts out a lot of that. It makes it easier to trade because you have half the number of possible signals a day. And also really focus in on London and New York, taking entries on the 8-hour during then. And that right there is going to increase the amount of profitable trades you take. This was our first indication while we were looking at it hasn't fallen too much, right? As we get back into this area, if this holds on the US dollar, Japanese yen, that's kind of nice. That becomes very interesting for us. We'll see if price makes it all the way down there. Has the not really. This is way way up in the sky. Can't chase after that. Let's see if we're seeing any news. China has delayed the trade deal press conference to 10 a.m. All right. So it doesn't seem like it's a fluid situation only for us. It seems like for whoever is making these decisions on the upper levels of both U.S. and China, it's a very fluid, undecided situation. You're just watching a game of chess or Go being played out in real time. So I want to read through the lines here, and it says the market appears convinced that this is everything we've been hoping for, but for the radio silence for China. So my take on this is that after the U.S. took back the narrative yesterday morning, we spoke about that in the live stream, how they were not happy that China had control of the narrative. So they made a play that took control of the narrative and then placed the ball in China's court to make a decision. So this is China's reaction so far. Instead of answering right away and being answering to the one who is taking control, game theory, by China being silent, that was their strongest move so far. So that's what I think is going on. And I just want to put this on so that we hear it when it comes on. Snowy, if you don't have the 8 hour, I think the daily is too much, personally. And I think the 12 hour is good. And the 12 hour might even be better than the 8 hour. It's possible. But I think the 12 hour is good. So if you go down here, Snowy, and you could set up for free 8 hour charts on MetaTrader 4. Just watch that video and it'll teach you how to set up the 8 hour charts on MetaTrader 4. And then you're good to go. An era, good morning. Yes. The lots of volatility these last 24 hours. Awesome to see. And I hope and wonder if it's any indication of, because we're seeing FX markets at really, really low volatility, really small ranges, historically speaking. And what normally follows then is really strong volatility. Markets are always going from contracting to expanding. So boom, boom. Oh, so I'm not so sure about that. My take on that is so the US appears as giving China nothing. China might not even commit to any type of real agricultural purchases, which was really nothing to begin with and something they really need to feed their people, especially the pork. But it is actually a win for Trump, because what Trump wants is to keep the markets up so he gets reelected. He'll get reelected in a landslide as long as the markets don't fall off. So it's actually a huge, it may appear like he's getting nothing, but he's getting everything. And if he is reelected, he's going to come down super, super hard on China. Xi and China, the communists, could do whatever they want. They don't have to worry about an election. And Trump does. He has an election coming next year. And so he's playing with one hand tied to the table. And what he needs to do is, if he gets any type of situation, any type of deal, which simply keeps the U.S. economy going and the markets up, that's a huge win for him. because then a year from now, he'll be in an enormous position of strength in negotiating. And he was the one who came on heavy against China to begin with the tariffs and the escalations. And you're going to see that multiplied if he's reelected. So I understand that the way it's being spun is that Trump is caving and he doesn't know how to negotiate, but that's not the way I see it. What he needs is simply to keep the U.S. economy going, the market's up, in order to get reelected. And that's just my view. Yeah, I live for the day when the United States and all countries have elected officials working for them. But I do feel like, so really, I don't think it's fair the amount of intellectual property that China has stolen from the U.S. For example, Huawei stole Citgo's. How do you say? The one who makes the router, Silicon Valley, largest company, one of the largest companies going out of the .com area, stole their router technology and used the same exact manual word for word. They didn't even change it. There's a huge court case for that. An enormous amount of technology has been stolen, and finally someone standing up to China. I think that benefits the American people. That's just my view. Otherwise, we're on a clear trajectory that the U.S. will be lost, including the U.S. dollar. And if you take a look at some of the things that are being implemented within China, such as the social credit score system, it's really scary, that type of tyrannical behavior. And I don't want to see that type of ideas being spread around the world. And that's exactly what's going to happen. So it's hard when the media is definitely, it's true, 92% of the coverage against the president in the last 3 years has been negative. That's not really realistic. So we always get a certain narrative thrown at us, and I'm just not exactly sure that's the case. Cisco. Thank you. So we're kind of on hold here, which is why we're paused. And really what we're on hold is the next 20 minutes. We're all waiting on China to see what they have to say. I have to say I'm disappointed that President Trump this morning did not give us any clarity when he said that what was reported was fake news. Well, that's fine, but tell us what the real news is. And he hasn't done that. And the ball's in China's court, and we're waiting on them. I don't think we're going to see much of any moves until the market finds out what's going on. But you could see here, this is being tested and successfully right now. So we have to wait to see the news. This is what's tough, is I am interested until this falls apart in looking long here, right? That's going to be dependent on whatever China says. How do you get in? What's the right time frame to be trading, to look for a reversal? Not so easy. But you could see how this technically is working out perfect. All right, the temptation is to buy this up here on the breakout because price is moving upwards and getting away from me. And the smart place to buy it is down here and into the support, right? But we need to see price bounce off that without getting away from us again. And we can't make any type of move until we find out what the story is. Yeah, except if China comes out and says that nothing's happening and there's no deal, this is gonna shoot down. Gold is firming up a little bit. So we're gonna hold just a little while longer, about 15 minutes. This should hopefully come on. This should, as soon as they're getting ready to go. Which is expected to be about 20 minutes. US-China becomes the focus again. And that's where we are. There's nothing to do until we find out what the next move is. China's officials are expected to hold the news conference shortly. We have that already on, so we'll know when that comes online. And the market is focused on what they have to say. There it is. That's exactly where we are in this moment. So again, if you don't have the 8-hour charts on TradingView, and TradingView is an awesome platform. I place all my orders on MetaTrader, but TradingView is awesome for reviewing charts, and it makes it easy. But I have done it for over a decade on MetaTrader 4 alone, and you could just set up the charts with this tutorial right here in the description. If anyone wants to take a look at something, anything at all, we got about 10, 13 minutes here. Let me know. Happy to look at anything. Canaro, if you are trading off of really short time frames, absolutely. And there are 15, 20-minute windows in there where it's good for scalping. And I've done it for a long time. Um, Plain and simple, trading the way that I trade with all of you here off the 8-hour time frame. Most of my entries come in during London overnight off of the 8-hour time frame, and it's a lot easier and it's a lot more consistent, and I have a lot more success with it. You're right though. Pre-market New York is when you have these. It's really good for scalping. You see a lot of moves before 8:30 out of New York is when you get most of the data released, and generally from between 8:10 to 8:30, you see whatever moves were happening during London usually retraced. Fantastic window to be looking to scalp and trade. And then after whatever data comes out at 8:30, you normally have 20 minutes of extensions of trends. Usually by 8:10, by 9:10 in the morning Eastern time to 9:30, those moves are then retraced. That's a time to fade, and then you have on the opening where you get some strong moves. It's really good for short-term traders, and it's definitely a time to focus in on. Yeah, and the thing about trading though is, and this is why I recommend everyone definitely take a look and learn this, because even if you're not trading this as it is, and obviously this is, since we implemented it, doing really well, is that you could learn what's shared here and implement it into the time frame and style you trade, because this teaches really the money management and risk management needed as a trader. This is really essential. This is why I have it as the beginner's guide. And this is all anyone needs to trade successfully in the markets. And same thing that I'm doing here on the 8-hour time frame. The way that I view the market, you could, if you're short time minded, you could translate that into that for sure. I would sincerely, probably I would. I'm pretty confident that there's, that I have probably more experience than a lot of people when it comes to short-term trading. Um, from trading, the E-minis and the futures on the 1 and 3 minute time frame. It's hard to trade Forex on such a short time frame unless the market's really moving. But taking, you know, over trading, taking an enormous amount of short time trades, and I found where the easiest way in foreign exchange is to make money. But the problem for that is until people learn it themselves, they generally don't have the patience, which I understand. Let me actually power up the speaker. I mean, you can't really get much better of a guide than that. This mine it was the breakout. A lot on chest breakout. It's TA in action. People do, and then the test of it. Picture perfect. Yes, we're frozen. We're just waiting. We have about 5 more minutes until the Chinese are expected to hold a press conference, which we'll find out when it comes on live. And that's going to give us really everyone is waiting on that to see what is going to happen, what is happening. And really, without that information, it's impossible to be active in the markets right now because it's a complete unknown that's going to provide the direction, the next direction. And whether that's this move holding, this support holding, and then price resuming upwards, or this breaking, we're going to find out. I think the Australian dollar, US dollar is a pivotal pair to be watching right now. Less so the Australian dollar, Japanese yen, but also. And then also gold is just holding. It is going to be affected by what happens next, though. So this is where my focus is on the Australian dollar. And it should just be a few more minutes. This is the part I take issue with, that the White House officials they're not letting us know what's going on. All they're saying is that people are not even sure which story they're talking about. And, that's messed up. We shouldn't be waiting on China right now to find out what's going on. Where's the White House?
我们的记者会预计在几分钟以后，也就是11点钟开始，所以请大家稍等，谢谢。
I can't speak Chinese, so I'm trading purely off his tone of voice. All right, watch price now. You can tell exactly what's happening from price alone. We'll hear the voice come on, and then we'll see how price reacts.
女士们、先生们、记者朋友们，大家晚上好！欢迎大家出席国务院新闻办公室新闻发布会。经过中美两国经贸团队的共同努力，中美第一阶段经贸磋商取得重大进展。为此我们举行新闻发布会，请国家发展和改革委员会副主任宁吉喆、 中央财经委员会办公室副主任、财政部副部长廖敏、外交部副部长郑泽光、农业农村部副部长韩俊、商务部副部长兼国际贸易谈判副代表王受文介绍中美经贸磋商有关进展情况，并回答 记者们关心的问题。现在我们先请王受文先生发布中方关于中美经贸第一阶段经贸协议的声明。
各位新闻界的朋友，大家晚上好。现在我先读一下中方关于中美第一阶段经贸协议的声明。 经过中美两国经贸团队的共同努力，双方在平等和相互尊重的基础之上，已就中美第一阶段的经贸协议文本达成一致。协议的文本包括序言、知识产权、技术转让、食品和农产品、金融服务、汇率和透明度、扩大贸易、双边评估 和终端解决最终条款共93节。与此同时，双方还达成了一致，美方将履行分阶段取消对华产品加征关税的相关承诺，实现加征关税由升到降的转变。中方认为， 中美两国作为全球最大的经济体，处理两国经贸关系必须从大局出发，达成经贸协议，有利于中美两国人民和世界人民的根本利益，将在经贸、投资、金融市场等等方面产生积极的效应。本协议整体上符合 中国深化改革开放的大方向，以及自身推动经济高质量发展的内在需要。协议相关内容的落实将有助于强化知识产权的保护，改善营商环境，扩大市场准入，更好地维护包括外国企业在内的各类企业在 中国的合法利益，也将有利于保护中方企业在对美经贸活动中的合法权益。随着中国国内市场的扩大，中方企业按照世贸组织的规则和市场化、商业化的原则，增加 曾包括美国在内的各国进口优质、有竞争力的产品和服务，这有助于顺应国内消费升级的趋势，满足人民日益增长的对美好生活的这个需求。本协议有利于中美两国加强经贸领域的合作，有效管控和解决 经贸领域的分歧，促进中美经贸关系稳定发展。在当前全球经济面临下行压力的背景之下，本协议也有利于 增强全球的市场信心，稳定市场预期，为正常的经贸投资活动创造良好的环境。那么双方约定下一步，双方呢将各自完成法律审核、翻译、校对等必要的程序，而且双方呢将尽快的完成这些必要的程序，并就正式签署协议的具体安排进行协商。协议签署之后，希望双方能够遵守协议的约定，努力落实好第一阶段协议的相关内容，多做有利于双边经贸关系发展和全球经济金融稳定的事情，维护世界和平与繁荣。谢谢大家。
Yeah, so
let
everyone know yesterday.
下面我们进入提问环节。提问的时候呢，请记者报一下所代表的新闻机构。今天我们采取了英文的同声传译。下面我们开始提问。行，第二排吧，这位女士。
谢谢主持人，我是中央广播电视总台央视记者。我的问题是，中美双方扩大贸易合作对中美两国。
Regain a little control, which is why they didn't say anything for all that time, and then delay the press conference. So Hanero, the move, it's an aggressive buy down here off the touch, right? But that would have paid off handsomely. What's going to happen now, if this move is going to hold or not, we're going to find out. Any retracement at all on Australian dollar, Japanese yen further would provide an opportunity to look to get long. I won't chase this up here. And I took a position here with a tight 20 pip stop loss. Oh, I'm so sorry. Alberto, I wasn't hearing the Chinese speaker speak at all. I thought it was just muted. I closed out that window. I hope you're not hearing that anymore now. I didn't even realize that we were having an issue there. I thought for whatever reason I couldn't hear the volume. I turned off what he was saying. I mean, this looks really bearish to me. And a breakout of this looks like a really strong trade to me. Those long wicks up here, not a good sign, but you have to get the breakdown in order for that move to follow through. And if it does follow through, right, it probably clear out this support over here. There's a good chance of it. The market, we'll see how price reacts around there, right? We'll see if it stalls out or breaks through. But if it breaks through, this becomes, what do you got? $40+ on gold. Nice trade. there doesn't seem to be much euphoria right now. So I'm looking for a pullback. I'll be watching the headlines to see how the participants are kind of taking this all in. And if we get any type of pullback here on the Australian dollar, Japanese yen, I'm going to assess how to be able to get into that. But I'm not going to chase after that one. All right, let's take a look at everything. Let's take a look. So the Australian dollar, US dollar is holding an uptrend. So you can see the breakout. You can see the breakout came all the way up. There was resistance up there, came back down. I've now tested this support, this trend line support touch, and this support line right over here. And it's still in an uptrend. It's got to break down below here for that to change. We're on the 4-hour right now, by the way. Euro, US dollar. Ooh, that has come off a bit. That's nice. That's real nice. So I'm just looking how price reacted off there and was rejected. But so what the next step is, I don't know, right? You have to watch how price is going to react around this. You already had the breakout and then the test of support and up to the next resistance level. So it's going to be really important how price reacts around there. If this holds, if this level holds, we're definitely still bullish. But if we get below this level, then I would be pretty bearish and definitely looking for shorts on the euro below that red line over here. I'm going to keep it red right now, even though it's a support. Let me fix that for you. And then as gold, I'm focused. It's not so much the weekly, and the weekly you're seeing 2 weeks in a row of pretty big wicks so far, but not even focused on the weekly. Just take it down to the daily or the 8-hour. It's this trend line here, this channel that we're in, right? It's currently holding, but I'm looking and waiting for a break. And if we break down here, I like getting short gold. Anyone who's buying off of this support, good, right? That's okay. You could buy off support. It's a good trade. I'm not buying off the support. I'm waiting to see if we break down. And if we break down out of this pattern, I like that trade to the short side. But the weekly is showing a long wick in 2 weeks in a row. So it's a sign that there are not buyers up there right now. The dollar is definitely showing strength ever since the China news. And where to play that, maybe versus the Japanese yen. looks pretty good. So we're back to this trend line support, and we have two of them. We're back to this one right here right now, and you have this resistance above. A continuation here is a good. If there's a deal right now that's, doesn't fall apart, it looks good for yen weakness to continue across the board. You're seeing the dollar strengthen. Normally, I don't take trades into resistance, but you have the double touches. If you come up here again, and off of this support here holding, I'm going to definitely be considering that. That's not going to be happening until the earliest during London on Monday. So I'll revisit that over the weekend, depending on where we close today. All right, the Trump factor. What are the indices doing? Because as long as they're going, they move back into the positive. So maybe he'll be quiet. I see the dollar strength kicking in a little bit, but I think net this is going to be positive for the Australian dollar. And I would like to see that play out on the Australian dollar, Japanese yen. I assume we're seeing yen weakness continue across the board. This needs to be drawn in. That's an important trend line. Focus in here if you're trading the euro. As long as you're trading above this trend line, you should not be looking to sell. Of course, I mean, this is an aggressive play for me, and it's a good one. We saw this resistance didn't hold, and if someone was playing a rejection of that resistance level here, seeing it didn't hold, I could understand that. And if I was looking at that and reviewing it, I would respect that. I don't take that type of trade. And I think as long as this trend line here is holding, you need to look to the buy side. But if you get below, it'll coincide this support here, which was after it broke out, it was already tested once. If it's tested again and breaks and it coincides with this trend line, I think that you have some nice trades here to the downside on the euro US dollar. Until then, I would be favoring it to the upside. Hanera, did you see this? Did you see this headline? That the Fed is going to add an additional $500 billion in liquidity in the next 3 weeks. That's a house of cards. The Fed has been monetizing 90% of the US debt. Mode, I don't do Skype sessions. I'm here with you right now, live streaming. If you have any questions, if there's anything you want to take a look at, that's what we do here. I'm happy to do it. This is in the description below. There's my TradingView account. You could send a chart if you want to review a chart, or you could ask me to pull up a pair. Happy to do that with you. But I mean, it's true. Aside from seeing the euro versus the dollar come off, I'm not really seeing any other moves to focus on. I've seen gold come off a few dollars, but not really. It's kind of back where it was. This seems to be the most movement occurring here. So I'm focused on the US dollar, Japanese yen. You did see, right? The entry CCI has reset. So you're not chasing anything over here. This actually might be providing the little slingshot momentum to break this resistance level. And if we break it, we got that would be the target somewhere up there as we came into that resistance up there. So there's some room on that trade. It's not screaming. This is something you can't pass up. Definitely. Let's take a look at the pound Japanese yen. So I'm just going to start on the daily with you. We'll drop back right here in 1 second. Just always want to get the top down approach, get my feel. And so looking to the left, right, we have that price almost came up right to that resistance right over here. Let's see if we get a better look. I need to go to the weekly first. I mean, without drawing anything in, you could see this horizontal line right here. You see the touch over here, the spike in again over there. Again over here. It's fuzzy. It's definitely, I wouldn't draw an exact line, but in this area, right, that's where price came into that resistance. Okay. And it's just retracing a little bit. That looks like a little bit of a wick, but this move was so big. I'm not reading into that. Let's look at the daily. You have a pretty massive wick here. I have a feeling that we're going to come revisit this. We'll see. I really believe that we're going to come revisit this high over here. And there's the possibility that we even go on to make much higher highs. That doesn't mean that I would buy or take a buy right here, right now. You can see on the 8-hour, that wick doesn't look so bad as it does on the daily, right? This looks like a healthy structure's in place. As far as looking where would be a place to begin looking for a buy, not yet. And I don't know where that is, so I'm looking. I'm looking for some type of guidance here. Just 1 second. It's a really tough call, and that's why I'm just staying on the side here. Overall, though, I think we're still looking at definitely further yen weakness, especially with this agreement signed by the U.S. and China. And I think the pound definitely has a lot of continued strength. Everything is going its way right now. And I just don't see an entry here or yet. I'm not coming up here and buying after these moves we've seen because price is really volatile. And if you are interested in trading the pound, with this higher volatility, with these daily ranges expanded, you have to be trading a smaller position size, right? You should be looking at 1% risk on the trade, no matter where your stop loss is. It looks like the pound dollar is coming back now and testing this broken resistance, which should be support now. So this looks a little bit easier to get an entry in on in the coming sessions. So the most aggressive technique I could use for getting long here, like on the pound dollar, and I'm not saying it appears we're getting a little bit of dollar strength, so who knows where this will end up, but this would be during London of Monday if price on the 8-hour makes a higher high than the previous price bar with this support level right below me here. That would be the earliest anytime I would get involved on the pound dollar. I think there are easier plays, better plays. Chasing momentum doesn't usually work out. Watch gold here. Motor reversal on. So just, I think I was talking about the pound Japanese yen when you wrote that. I just saw the comment now. So where would I look for a reversal? There's no way I'm looking for a reversal anytime soon. The clearest way to do that is a reversal is not really even in the cards at this moment. If that develops and changes, you could always spot a trend reversal using the true trend. That's your earliest indication of a reversal. And technically, I think this trend line right here, although not perfect. There you go. I think that trend line there would be your first indication if price traded below there, right? And you got back into this channel. But if you got back into this channel, I wouldn't even yet be looking for a reversal. I would expect you would have support coming in from down here as well. But that would be my first indication that we're going to see a little bit lower. Above that trend line over here, we're extremely bullish. We are seeing dollar strength for sure come in. Dominic, excellent question. To answer that, I'm going to go here on the euro. Looking at the weekly time frame, and this is coming back to, so this is April of 2017. And you see this gap here on the euro. This was during the election in France where Macron was elected. And you see that big, it's like a 200 pip gap. And that hasn't closed yet. This was an election, like last night was an election. And it really transformed the entire shape of the EU last night. If Brexit finally happens, right? It was a big deal. We saw a gap. This gap might eventually get closed one day. This is from the election in France, right? This transformed the face of the EU also. And but it went on and it ran up almost 2,000 pips from that gap. And it could very well close one day. I mean, there's a good chance it'll close one day. I'd be betting still over the US over the EU, but I don't know. And it hasn't closed yet. It's been a couple of years. And don't expect that pound gap to close anytime soon. Where it could, anything, we all know anything could happen in the market. And usually what you don't expect to happen does happen in the markets. But just don't, because it's a gap, don't expect that it's going to fill or right away. All right. That's the best way I can answer that question. And it's a really good question. Yep, that's exactly it. You could see that there's this gap of price, this space in between price bars here. That's a gap. Well, let's be fair. The cardio wasn't needed by any means whatsoever. And I think that we both should have received a pass on that. So important levels. I'm long the Australian dollar US dollar here. It looks like I'm on the wrong side of the trade. Again, I took that off of news outside of my wheelhouse. And my stop is right here below, right below this trend line and below the low here. So if I'm wrong, I'm dead wrong. And it looks like that's where we're headed. But I'm going to give it that room to get below that support and be wrong if I'm wrong. I'm going to be watching here on the Australian dollar, Japanese yen, and see if this was just a retracement here and any type of long develops during this session. Gold is being actually bid up now a little bit. These are classic stories too. It's so great. It's nice the markets are alive again. That's for sure. We're going to see Hernero, you must be loving it. There is just movement, and it's nice. These last 24 hours have been stellar as far as seeing these enormous moves in the markets. I mean, of course, you had the election in the UK, which was a huge deal, but seeing 2.5% moves that happened in 3 minutes, that's huge. Peppa, how you doing? Welcome. Let's take a look here at the Australian dollar, Swiss franc. And I'm going to need to go a bigger time frame. All right. So I see lots of sideways price action here. We're in a pretty narrow range. Probably the top of the range I have up over around here, right? Draw a line in over there. That'll be helpful. Coming back, looking at this again. So that's resistance. Let me draw in the support first. And then these are the guidelines I would look at for the current range of the Australian dollar Swiss franc. And because price is so sideways, I'm not looking to get involved whatsoever, nor would I. But right now, this is your resistance to be leaning off of and selling off of. And this is your support to be buying off of. But not much of an edge for the way that I trade personally, but that should provide a pretty good guideline. If you break down below the support, right, then you have another support right there. Let's draw that in. You're going to need that in there. You get below this lower support, and then you really want to get interested in this. And you could start breaking down to new lows. You would need to see some type of escalation in the trade war for this to happen, though. And that doesn't appear to be happening right now. I'm curious personally why we're seeing this move we're seeing right now in the Australian dollar, but we're seeing weakness in the Australian dollar ever since they said that they signed this agreement, perhaps because we saw too much appreciation going into it. But on the Australian dollar Swiss franc right there, you have another level that you really want to watch. And that's up here, right? You get above here and you might get, this could be retraced. You get back above this resistance over here, and then you might have a nice trade on your hands. Right now, you're stuck between resistance and support, and you're sideways. All right. So, Peppa, I'll get to that in 1 second. right here on the Australian dollar, US dollar, we are coming down and we are testing. Let me show you in the 8-hour. We're testing some supports here. So if we get below this trend line right here and today's low, then this is looking like a false breakout of that 1-year trend line. And of course, this is going to come into play really quick too. It's possible she regains her footing over here and holds below here. I would say that's a false breakout for sure. But right now, we're still holding support. And until it breaks, the support is in play and it's holding. We're seeing definitely weakness. It must be the weakest pair right now, the Australian dollar, ever since the agreement came into place. But that might just be a reaction of all of the euphoria that it has seen. And this might only be a pullback into resistance. It's too soon to say. And we're seeing definitely dollar strength at the same time. We're seeing that translated here. So the DXY, I assume, is trading up nicely. So, Peppa, Okay, we'll look at that in 1 second. Peppa, read this article today, right now, or this weekend, and start reading what's in red until you get all the way down. Just read everything that's in red all the way down, and then let me make sure I have the right article here for you. Yeah. Oh, man. Well, hold off a second. I got to confirm that that's the one I want you to read. But right now, the Fed is spending $500 billion in liquidity into year end. The markets are trading at all-time highs. Really, it's tough making money betting against the indices. And when they finally do break down, we may see between a 40 and 60% correction. But trying to take that trade when you're trading against an enormous amount of central bank liquidity that is just being printed out of thin air and doing its best to hold up to the market. So trading against that is so tough and it's not a good idea. And there will come a time and a place that the trade is going to be to short the indices. And in a short time, you can make a ton of money because when they fall, it falls. But right now, really, I don't know that that's the time. So much money is being pumped into the markets, and we're seeing markets trading at or near all-time highs. So I don't know how sound that sounds, Peppa Kid. Okay. Why did the dollar fall going into the UK election? I think the dollar fell yesterday more so on the China news, which I see that also reversing right now. I think we saw this breaking down yesterday after we saw the late day news as far as China was concerned. I don't think that was related to the UK elections. And then ever since we've seen that the deal is announced and finalized, we're seeing some dollar strength. So this is mostly looking at, and you see we're coming back towards this resistance right here, right now. And again, until we break above it and regain it, this is resistance. We're seeing that play out on the euro US dollar, where we have support down here. That's that resistance you're looking at on the DXY. On the Australian dollar, she looks like she's giving back all of the gains, but she's holding above support. She got to break down below there. And that's why the 8-hour provides that filter versus false signals. Thank you guys. I really appreciate that. That's really sincere, and I thank you. I agree here on the Australian dollar, US dollar. You're at the tough point where you're testing support, but right now you have that breakout and you have the test of that support. And as of right now, it's holding. And we could see a resumption next week, 100%. And it's a little tough if you break below it. Right, you're going to have to look right here at price reacts off of this level because that's where it could find its support. Below there, I would say that this was a false break. This was a false break of this year-long trend line below that line. Then it's just clear that you're wrong. It's true. And Raj, the mixed feelings about that. I mean, it's so true that when things go badly, they're going to really go badly. The Fed is already spending so much money, pumping so much money into the market. How much more could they pump? And then, they could get down to zero. That's not really going to fix things as far as the interest rates are concerned. There's not much help there. The cycle's been going on for 11 years now. They never let it go into recession. It's important to have market cycles. We could see a 40 easy. Most corrections in the market are around 40%, the big ones. And we could go definitely to 60. That's a huge deal. And why it's an opportunity, think about how many people will be out of work. It's tough. So many people will be having trouble putting food on the tables. And it's unfortunate that these central bankers have control of our economy and are just making things up as they go. Yep. So, and Peppa, what Raja's saying too, like hopefully we could be on point and alert enough to catch it when it happens. And the thing is when it's happening, you're going to know it's happening. Whether or not you could get in or not, that's a different story. But right now it's not happening. So there's no reason to be short because it's not happening. Right. And I mean, the indices are at all-time highs. It's not happening. When it's happening and you're seeing, because things fall, they fall fast and hard, and you'll know it when it's happening. And then it's a question of whether or not you could be involved and get in, but you don't want to be preemptive. I know so many people who have lost so much money over these past 5 years in selling puts against the indices, right? And had they been buying calls the whole time, they'd be retired and wealthy. Well, maybe not that, but they'd be doing good. No, I get it. And I'm with you on that 100%. And I just want to make sure that, Right now, DXY dollar is taking a look at the resistance. You see it clearly here on the Australian dollar, US dollar, right here towards that support and a pip or two off the low of the day. Amir, welcome. Amir, if you just take a look down in the description of the video that we're in right now, and you just scroll down to where it says how to set up 8-hour charts on MetaTrader 4. Watch that video. The video will be really, really helpful, and I highly recommend it. Here you have the download of the true trend right here from MetaTrader 4. It's a direct download. Australian dollar, US dollar is broken through to new lows for the day. You can see it taken out right there. This also could be setting up early next week for a nice resumption of the trend on the Australian dollar, Japanese yen. Amir, go to the channel. We live stream every day. There's a bunch of replays that you could spend time with. Spend some time this weekend. Figure that out for yourself. You know, some people are definitely saying that they're happy to be here and are learning a lot. And that same opportunity is here for you. But what you need to do is head over to the channel and start watching these videos. You see all these live streams. Any picture with this picture here is a live stream. You have all these replays. You watch 3, 4, or 5 of them, and you're going to have a really seriously good start on knowing what to do and having a good education. So go ahead and put that time in and invest in yourself. Blair, generally speaking, the market is extremely quiet and you are better off not trading it. This year could be different. This year could definitely be different. There's a reason that the Fed is spending $500 billion in the next 3 weeks. Okay. This article, I'll tell you right now. Yeah. This article right here, really important to read, and will explain to you very clearly why it's possible we could have a severe problem in the next few weeks, especially as indices are trading at the all-time highs, putting more and more pressure. This year could be different, but generally speaking, it's a very poor time to trade, and you're way better off not trading it. There's very low volume, very low movement. And then there have been a history of occasional, especially in between New York and Asia, on the Euro US dollar, you could see it move a couple hundred pips in a couple of minutes because there's no volume. So it's very dangerous. You're better off not trading until, right around January 4th, the following Monday after the new year. I don't know what it is this year, but January 4th, January 5th, and this year could be different, but I think it's more of having the mindset to be able to assess whether or not you should be trading and getting involved, or you should be on the side. Amir, welcome. Glad you're here. I have to say, again, until you've watched a few of those replays, don't even think about anything else. That's what you need to do. By doing that, Amir, you'll be stepping into the game, knowing what to do and how to go about doing it. And they'll be spending more time with us. But that's simple. That's where you're at, and that's where you need to begin. It's true. And although so the odds are nothing will happen, but we've never seen this in our lifetimes. We've never seen the Fed adding $500 billion in liquidity, as markets are at all-time highs. Something's wrong there. This is from a former Fed chairman, and gives a fantastic view of what's going on right now and what the risk is. And I think it was Zero Hedge who mentioned, 10 days before Lehman went under, someone else had gone ahead and, sent out the warning This is a similar situation. It doesn't mean it's going to happen, but the possibility is it exists, and it's just not someone calling for a market crash. And actually, of course, Hanero, you're right. But from what I understand, traders are actually being warned not to go on holiday this year. We'll see. So, and I thought it might be in this article. So really, Hanero, and why they're not calling it QE, even though they're printing all this money, is quantitative easing is when they start buying long-term debt. And right now they're only buying the short-term stuff. And there might be a better article. I'm not sure if this is the one. I'm not positive on that. So the call is that within the next 3 weeks, so the Fed met on Wednesday, and they said that we're on hold, right? We don't expect to be cutting rates, and we're just on hold now. This was a mid-cycle adjustment. So the sincere possibility exists that within the next 3 weeks, the Fed will actually need to restart QE4, and that means they'll need to start buying long-term treasuries. Let's see. I hear what you're saying, because they're pumping an enormous amount. They're pumping billions of dollars into the market through the repo markets. Things might get worse even with them doing that. So you got wrecked. I think the line of thinking is that QE is effective. It's more effective the closer you are to zero. So if they're forced through a crisis, for example, if by the end of this year, in the next 3 weeks, if they were forced to resume QE4, will they then have emergency rate cuts before doing that? That's the playbook. So probably that's what would need to happen first, but it won't be regular scheduled. Expect like the market's pricing in a rate cut in the next Fed meeting. And then that's what happens, 25 basis points at a time. It would have to be emergency cuts. And because there's an emergency going on, that's when it's clear that you could be short the indices. You'd be seeing the spillover happening everywhere, even into FX. Right, you'd see being strong dollar, strong yen. You would see it, and it's a good question. The Fed is under the impression that QE is more effective the closer rates are to zero. So I think it's fair to assume that they would have emergency rate cuts. Yeah, the Fed doesn't want to be cutting or adding QE4. This would be if they're forced to. So I know we have a small tight group. we've only had like, what's a lot, but it's been about 100 people stop in this session to be with us. And it's a really small, tight-knit group. And I thank each and every one of you. I'm glad to be able to share this time with you. I really appreciate you. I want you to know that. And even if over time, as we continue, if this gets bigger, I still want to find a way to keep that tightness with everyone. That's important. I'm going to take a few minutes here. I'm going to take a 5-minute break here. I'm going to get a cup of tea. So I'll be right back. Hold on. Paul, Alberto, I'm on that. 1 second. This is the article that I really suggest everyone take a look at. This was probably the second best article I read all week. This one's the first. This one's regarding actually the yuan. Let me post this into the chat. And I don't think anyone really understands it. Oh, Paul, now I was looking at and understand your question better. And so like, I'm not an authority on this whatsoever. And my understanding is not great. From what I understand, the debt on these banks' balance sheets is not short term. And the repo is buying the short-term treasuries. And that is why they need QE4. So the Fed will start buying what's on the bank's balance sheets, which is the longer-term treasuries. All right. That's a very simple explanation. And again, it's not something that I would, at a dinner conversation be explaining to people, because I wouldn't speak up, because I don't, unless I'm really informed and consider myself an authority, I wouldn't add my 2 cents. But if you read both these articles, they're both decent reads. They're not just browse through and read. If you read both these articles, you're gonna be way ahead of the game. This one, you only need to read what's in red. And this one gets into this one more has to do with the Chinese. This one is directly related to the repo markets and what's going on right now. But they're both highly recommended. So this is where it's getting into the fact that since right now the Fed is only buying the treasury bills, the short-term duration treasury bills, it's not QE4. And what the banks are holding is long-term dated treasuries. And if the Fed starts buying those, it will be QE4. And this guy, Zoltan Pazar. All right. So from what this says, I'm not familiar with him. He's respected on Wall Street for what he did with the shadow banking system. He's also was part of the U.S. Treasury and the New York Fed. All right. So this guy has a background working for the Fed. Really important to pay attention to what he's saying here. And he's basically saying that by the end of the next 3 weeks, by the end of this year, the Fed will have to reinstate QE4, which means we'll have a crisis on our hands. And, a lot of people are talking about this. And I know that we always hear that the crisis is coming. So this is a former Fed official saying this. It's worth at least being informed. It seems like we're always at such a pivotal place in the markets. And right now we have the dollar testing this resistance right here. You could see it clearly now on the euro US dollar as we're down towards this support down here. I think it was on this one that I drew in this trend line. We get below this, and in my opinion, we're going to see the dollar bull back alive. And on the Australian dollar, US dollar, we've taken out this trend line over here. We're making new daily lows. And we noted that this support here would come into play next. So I have to assume, I do assume that, as was mentioned, but someone else a little bit earlier that we could see some type of resumption of the Australian dollar early next week. And that's why I'll be watching still both the Australian dollar, US dollar, and the Australian dollar, Japanese yen to see if that's possible. I'm curious what happened to the New Zealand dollar throughout all of this. So why we're seeing the yen strength, I am not really sure. This is just seems to be a sell the news type event right now so far. Even the yen is stronger than the dollar. Over here, I'll be looking, though, for this support to hold over here next week as well. A lot's changing. A lot's changing. And take a look at some headlines. This is really what's happening. Both the US and China are really not clear on any of the details, which leads me to believe that this is just not an escalation. It's just a ceasefire. If anyone is interested in anything that is developing, setting up, want to bring our attention to it, I like that. Please let me know. So let's look at that trend line. You notice this structure, and then right there, right? See what I'm saying? It's still in play. It's this support right here, right now. It's definitely in play. Canadian dollar really coming in strong here versus the Australian dollar. We have about 25 minutes. And we might see that might be the bottom of this move for today. Well said. Good insight. Going into next week, I'm looking for a resumption of all the trends that are in place. These levels haven't been taken out, whether it's the euro, US dollar. You have the support right here, right? That gets taken out, focused on the short side. US dollar, Japanese yen. I'll be looking to buy off of the support. Australian dollar, Japanese yen. Definitely looking for this to hold over here. If we get a resumption upwards, this could just be a retracement. Same thing on the Australian dollar, US dollar. They're very close to breaking down, but they're not there yet. So the last thing I'm watching for today is the London close and whether or not these prices will put in their lows of the day. It's a time of day we often see market reversals, and being that is, as you just mentioned, you got wrecked. It is Friday. Are people going to be looking to push price moves past these big resistance and support levels we're trading at? I'm not sure. I don't think so. Gold is catching a bid here into the close. Yeah, definitely. Let's look at silver right now. So, I mean, we're starting here on the 8-hour. I'm going to drop really first to the daily, just really quick. And it's kind of the same view, although I see that I have the support joining down there. All right. So, jumping up to the 8-hour. It looks to me right now that this trend line, which was support until it broke here, it was tested as resistance and then tested again yesterday during New York as resistance, is still in place. All right. So right now you want to be considering selling off of this resistance if you start resuming back down. And if you get back into this channel, that should hold again as support. So you could also see horizontally right here around 17, around the whole number, the psychological number, you have some resistance as well. So that's what I see. I see that this is the line in focus. Silver is leading the way down where it's broken out of this bear flag, while gold is holding so far within it. All right, so you see gold holding within that bear flag. Silver has broken down out of it and it has come up once and tested it as resistance. And now a second time so far as resistance, and you're back up there. And you got that whole number at 17, psychological resistance. Pretty clear as well. You could see it, all the touches here. It was support 17, and then it broke again. 17 was resistance, and then so you got resistance here at the whole number at 17 and that above. So you gotta get above here to be looking for the long side on silver back into this channel. And right now you got to be looking for these two resistance of the whole number 17 and this lower trend line, lower channel line to hold. Wilfer, I apologize. I haven't forgot, and I'll make sure to answer that sometime within the next couple of hours. And I apologize. We came back Tuesday late Tuesday night, and then it's taken a few days to get settled. It's busy with the 5 kids and whatnot, and I was thinking of that. I think last night I was just so tired. So I apologize, and I will get that, and I will definitely respond. Let's take a look right now. Wilford, check your email. I sent over the trading plan that I'm preparing. It's not a final draft, but that is definitely your next step. So DJ, I'm trying to get on the same page as you. And right now, it looks like it's right now I'm looking horizontally. I know you're looking for the channel. I'll look at that in a second. I'm looking horizontally and I see that this was where the support was. You see the resistance here and then support over here. So just right where price is trading right now is the actual support, which has been broken, but is not held. So in about 15 minutes, when we have the London close, that's going to be a pretty important point. Are we above or below it? And it's too soon to tell, which is why you need the daily. You have this huge engulfing bar here happening right now, but there's no easy read on that. I'm going to go back to your channel in 1 second. So is this the trend line here that you were focused in on? I mean, I see the sloping price action. And I see a breakdown over here. That's tough. Personally, I will be focused in on this support that she's trading on right now. And if we wind up, closing below here, but I don't see it personally. This could just be a bottom formation occurring. There's really no edge that I see here for a trade. Perfect. December 11th, November 11th, you said? All right, so let me draw this in then on the daily, and then I'll come back down to the 4. So again, this is like the correct angle for a sloping trend line. I don't have it. You see how this angle is really sharp to the downside, DJ? So what I do see is this though. Hold on. All right. This is the correct angle. But watch, though, stay with me. And this might be what you're looking at. Is this lower one what you're looking at? This couldn't have been drawn in though, really, before today. Yeah. And that's tough for me. Is that what you're looking at though? Is that the touch you're speaking of? Which I mean, I could see drawing that in now, but without that prior going in real time, that's tough for me. to have been aware of. This one's helpful. No, DJ, I want to, could you, are you on TradingView? Could you just take a screenshot, take a snapshot with that camera, copy the link and send it as a private message? I want to see exactly what you're looking at for sure. I want to see. Sorry that I wasn't able to draw it in, but I'm here to learn also. Wilford, have a great weekend. I will get out Sunday morning, the weekly Forex forecast. Have a great night. Get some rest. DJ, whatever's easier for you on MetaTrader 4, you could take a screenshot. You could upload it to postimages.org and then send me that link. You could send me the link through TradingView. You could send it to my email. Awesome. Indices are mixed. It looks like they're just mixed. Nasdaq up, S&P and Dow barely negative. The question is, does this resistance hold here on the DXY? We're seeing that play out over here. Euro, this is the line in the sand, really. This area is important. So my go-to entry is, and you can see it. Well, let me go. I can see it perfect right here. What we'll be setting up. So we'll come back to it. Let me look at an earlier trade I took this week. And that was right down here. See the support line? I take buys off of support and I sell off of resistance. I'm looking for support and resistance. I'm looking to trade around trend channels and triangles. And I'm buying off of support and selling off of resistance. Over here, this is a trade I took earlier in the week. And this bar over here, right here, was Asia. I don't take signals during Asia unless it's coming from, for example, yesterday with the UK elections. That's an event I would trade off hours. Or if the Bank of Japan, New Zealand, or Australia was making a rate decision, that's the only time I would trade during Asia. Otherwise, I don't trade it because from my history, it has the most false signals. And by avoiding the session altogether, it vastly improves my performance. So I avoid Asia. A signal has to come during London or during New York. Okay, so this was during Asia, and price made a higher high than the previous price bar off of support on the 8-hour time frame. So that's a buy I would take, but I avoided it because it was Asia, and I just waited here for price during London to make a higher high, and that was my entry. So buying, I'm looking to buy off of supports, and I'm waiting on the 8-hour time frame for price to make a higher high sometime during London or New York. And the adverse off of resistance, selling off resistance. I wait for my confirmation. I don't trade the touch. I wait for price to resume back down. And that's what I look for in entries. Okay. Have a great weekend. So here on the Australian dollar, if this holds the rest of today, if this holds through Asia on Monday, during London, and this resumes upwards, I'll be taking this trade here 100% on the Australian dollar, US dollar. And if it breaks below here, at that point, I have a short bias. On the euro US dollar, the closer we get to the support, the better. I will not take a buy entry if it's too close to a resistance. My risk to reward on every trade has to be favorable, or I don't take it. And I don't like overhead resistance. And this is what I came in. I didn't take this trade this week down here early in the week. And I didn't take this trade off of support here. And that was because I had this resistance right above. And then another one right above there. So it wasn't a favorable risk to reward going into the trade. It was a good trade. It was a fantastic trade. But that's why I stepped aside and didn't take it. I am really picky about the trades I take. I only take a few trades a week. And I just wait for my setups to come to me. Thanks, Wilfred. May God bless you too, abundantly. Thank you. My instincts, my guts tell me that the lows are in place for today. I don't think we're going to break this support level, all these support levels and resistances that prices are trading at right now. That's just my instinct. That's my gut. I don't think so. We have, obviously it's Friday. Traders would be looking, I think, squaring up positions here. I don't think people will be really pushing the envelope. Where we open up on Monday, that's a different story. I will be preparing over the weekend the trading plan going into next week, doing a top-down review of all different currency pairs. And then each day we build off that as the market changes and develops. All right, and so this is a good time to end today's session. Hey, I really appreciate all of you, and I thank you. Hope you all have a wonderful weekend. If you're able to join us Monday, we'll be live streaming at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm curious whether or not we should start at 8:30. That will be at the time of most news releases in New York. I can't really start before 8:30. I'm busy with the kids, and but we may move. We may start at 8:30, but Monday we'll be starting at 9. And if you're able to join us, that's awesome. We would love to have you, and have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you, Joshua. I really appreciate that. Alberto, have a great weekend. Thanks for everything. Maria, I'm actually interested in what you're viewing and what you're learning. Hey, listen, if you have the time this weekend, email me and let me know what it is. If you could summarize in just a few sentences, perhaps, what really you took from this week, that would be beneficial for me for helping others. So if you're up for that, that would be great. And but I do appreciate everyone's support. I appreciate. I'm thankful for being able to pass on what knowledge I can, and I look forward for everyone upping their game continuously and day over day, week over week. All right, everyone, take care.